edition of Mindmine Summit, an annual flagship event of the Hero Enterprise, was back in a physical mode after the COVID hiatus, fostering a plethora of dialogues, debates and deliberations by who's who of politics, bureaucracy, industry, academics, among other opinion makers on a wide spectrum of topics. In line with the country's current state of affairs, the theme of 2022 was appropriately titled Post-Pandemic Repurposing India.
The pandemic taught us many things. It has made us rethink our priorities. It truly has been a time for introspection, a time for redefining ourselves as individuals, families, organizations, and also nations. This year, we chose a theme of repurposing India for the same reason that I spoke about individual people's views and their rethinking about themselves, that this pandemic made us think. We are also at an interesting cusp. 75 years of being an independent nation, we've come a long way. We became a larger economy than those who ruled us for over 300 years. A fantastic achievement to have become the 5th largest economy in the world. And in an extremely short period, when we were just at 11, just 10 years ago. I think this is truly a credit to all Indians and certainly to India's leadership. India's economy getting to where it is now, being the 5th largest economy, which are now going to be the big focus areas for you to move India from being the 5th largest economy further up the ladder, maybe to the 3rd.
When you're planning for the Indian economy for the next 25 years, which we are calling Amritkal, and PM has highlighted champion sectors will be the ones with which we start off. But the first litmus test would be, how would it benefit the workforce? Some at the leadership level and some at the bottom, or some in the middle. But people come out of universities, colleges, schools with different sets of skills. All of them need prospects for the future. And in that prospect is where the next 25 years is going to be geared. Today, if India is showing the way on digital payments, digital influence into your medical practice, setting up of 75 digital derived centers of learning, setting up of 75 digital banking. 75 is because we want to also remember that it happened in the 75th year of independence. The digitization, the rapid influence of digitization, even in areas like agriculture. So we've shown the way since after what we heard in Davos. So that is, I think, the kind of direction. Move it more towards digitization, even more, and also make sure the workforce participation is at its maximum.
The single biggest challenge for us as a nation is to ensure the standard of living for all Indians. And I would imagine more than anything else, that's one thing we have to address. But of course, we have to address it through growth. That's the only positive way to do this. So is there a tweak or a change required in our policy to encourage more hiring and better compensation and better work conditions?
Well, if I take the example of the PLI, the Productivity Linked Incentive Scheme, one of the things was, as much as we looked at every addition to the production, every unit in addition that you produce, and at that scale, we were also looking at what will be the impact on our labor force. And when we are talking about MSMEs, that's large, but when we are talking about MSMEs on the other end of the spectrum, we are looking at in-situ solutions for MSMEs wherever they are, because locally, they are the ones who give training, they are the ones who are going to be able to employ locally as much as collectively, if you think, as the large-scale units. So the policy has necessarily underlined the importance of labor and engagement of labor. And that's where we think we are pushing technology, digitalization, as much as we are pushing opportunities for work.
Thank you very much.
Addressing the inaugural session, the Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari talked about the 4 core pillars that would drive India's growth over the next decade.
I feel that 4 important pillars for Indian economy. One is water, power, transport and communication. Without that, we cannot have industry. Without industry, we cannot have capital investment. And without industry and capital investment, we don't have employment potential. And without that, we cannot eradicate the poverty. So first of all, we need to develop water, power, transport and communication. These are the important 4 pillars for Indian industry. But at the same time, what I feel that equally we need to concentrate on agriculture, rural and tribal area, the forest area. Because 124 aspirant districts, this is a big challenge for the country. Because these districts are socially, economically, educationally backward. So this is the time for the country that we need to take the industry up to the backward area to create industrial clusters, create irrigation in agriculture, just like river connectivity, hydropower project, tourism. We need to develop particularly in tribal area, forest area, and by which we need to create more employment potential.
You've been speaking about the need to reduce the logistics cost for the industry from 14% to 8%. What can be done?
Actually, our target is to reduce the logistic cost up to 10% before end of 24. We are making 27 green express highways. It is totally new alignment. Just from Delhi to Mumbai presently it is taking 48 hours. Then for truck it will be for 20 or 22 hours. And for car it will be 12 hours. Up to the end of December, 80 to 90% of the road work we will complete. It's presently it is 70% completed. And then green hydrogen is the fuel for the future. Just I saw 10 days before in Germany, the 1,000 kilometer train travel by using green hydrogen. So this is the future. Now I have got a green hydrogen car. So it's not a big task now. So by changing the fuel, we can reduce the cost on the fuel. At the same time, making the access control highway, we will reduce the time. And that is the reason that before end of 24, present logistic cost, which is 14 to 16%, we will reduce up to 10%. That is the target we have.
The upcoming session was an insightful conversation with the Chief of Army Staff, General Manoj Pandey, on the theme Lean, Agile and Future Ready. How should India's defense be right-sized?
When I took over the reins of the Indian Army, about 4 months back, so I laid out for myself about 8 to 10 thrust areas or focus areas, and foremost was, of course, maintaining a very high level and have a high degree of operational preparedness at all times, considering the active borders, the active commitment, deployment of our army, both on the western as well as the northern borders. So that was first. Second was also the fact that the army is undergoing transformational changes. We want to move from a manpower-intensive army to one which is technology-driven, which is more agile, as the topic of the discussion suggests, so that we are better prepared to carry out our mandate in a more effective manner. We are more future-ready, so to speak. So these transformational changes in different spheres, be it the organizational restructuring, be it the operational philosophy, be the human resource management philosophy, of which I'll perhaps, because that is something which is topical and we may like to speak of it a little later. So the aim was to re-energize these efforts and to take them forward. Third was also to, modernize the army. And that was to do with infusion of technology. How do you then, sort of from a manpower intensive army, become more technologically or technically oriented? Next was, of course, maintaining a very high level of morale of our soldiers. Also equally important was to look after our ex-servicemen and the Veer Naris, who also are very dear to our heart. So these were some of the areas that I set about. And of course, as we went along, you had in the middle of June, the new human resource management philosophy of the army, which was put out. And this is something which is engaging our attention. And that is something which...
You're talking of the Agniveers.
Absolutely, yes. So these were some of the areas that I had set about for myself as to how to make the army future ready, to be able to fight our battles of the future in a more effective manner. The emphasis on the non-contact nature of warfare is something which we'll have to seriously look at. And that includes the components of cyber, your space warfare, as well as information warfare. Now, there are some very good lessons that come out of what is again happening in Russia and Ukraine, especially in the context of all three that I mentioned. It is, the need for armies to focus on these has come out loud and clear.